The question everyone wants to know, how has my time living in London been? Let's do it. We are almost less than a month away from the next Be Fearless Summit. That, by the way, is completely sold out. You may have noticed that this is the first summit that is not in partnership with a university, which is super cool because years ago when I started this, I honestly had no idea how to scale it. And as an entrepreneur, you go through so many moments along the way where you're like, does this work? Does this work? Is this the model? Is this what's working? What's not working? And this particular program for me over the years has always kind of stumped me. And it's fascinating because you'll always hear people be like, oh, check out this community, or oh, these people are doing this thing. And as someone who has been in the community building space and the event space for years, I will tell you almost all of the companies that you love in the community and events building space, community in particular, are founded by founders who come from exited companies. So they have tons of money to throw at this type of a model because it is a very expensive type of company to run. And then second of all, most of them actually aren't making any money. So you'll see brand partnerships and sponsorships, but in reality, it's free product. And when you want to build and scale a company, like my focus has been obviously to make a living aside from my personal brand, you have to really be a lot more conscious of some of the more business and analytical parts of the brand. So that's on April 27th. And this week also, I launched my first e-course on how to build a personal brand. This is my first time launching an e-course, and I had a really great video editor help me put together this course for you guys. I know so many of you are interested in building brands and launching personal brands. And so that's what's really interesting. What really piqued my interest for launching this e-course is I figured instead of having you basically contact me all the time and ask me your questions and which podcast should I listen to, I figured I would put it all in one video and make it fun and engaging for you, whether you want to listen to it on the road, whether you want to sit down and watch it. It's really easy to follow along, and I think brings in a lot of what I like to consider my specialty in this space, which is thinking outside of the box when it comes to building a brand, when it comes to getting in front of the right people, and when it comes to figuring out your niche. So head to the show notes if you want a discount. The new Unfiltered listeners get a special discount to the personal branding e-course, as well as subscribe to my weekly newsletter, Stay Fearless or Die Trying, if you want to know more about running a startup and building a personal brand. So let's talk London. I moved in officially January 15th. I have so many things that I've learned and can talk about in the past 2 months. London is an incredible city. It's one of my favorite cities. I had been coming to London for years before I moved here. My mom is British, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, you've probably never heard of my lovely mother's British accent. So I got my British passport last year, at the beginning of last year. I had no intention to move here. It all happened really fast. One of the most common questions I'm getting asked is like, how long are you planning to stay? And I answer this very easily. I moved here with no intention of leaving. The only reason I would move back to America fully is if I had a work opportunity that required me to be there, or my future partner and I decided to move back. So that kind of gets that question out of the way. I feel very comfortable here, and I feel like it's a city that's really easy to live in comparison to New York and LA that are so fast-paced. People are so fake. It's always a matter of, can you be doing better? Can you be making more money? Can you be hustling more? And of course, if you guys have followed me throughout the years, like I am the queen of hustling. But I am fucking tired of it. And I got tired of the same BS. I think the same networking events and the same kind of people. And of course, you find those people all over. And I have created a super amazing group of friends for myself where I don't necessarily have to partake in some of those dumber conversations, quite frankly, that I hate partaking in at different events or parties. But I will say that in the United Kingdom, in Europe, in general, I've realized that you just have more grounded, down to earth conversations with people. So much of my job is reliant on social media and cameras and being in front of people. But at the end of the day, I really am actually a bit of a hermit. Like, I don't really like going out. I'm not a fan of partying. I would much rather go to a nice dinner and be in bed by 9 than stay out and have a crazy late night or be seen at some wild party. I think I used to be a lot more into that scene, but at this point, all I really want to do is work and just either go home or have a good conversation with somebody. And I think that's just the biggest difference about living here. So that is my goal. I signed a 2-year lease. I'm also very flexible, and I'm very lucky to be flexible because if I want to leave, right, I can leave. Like, if something happened with my parents and I had to be back in America, if I am a firm believer, and I've proven this, if there is a will, there is a way. If I can leave, I need to leave, I'll leave. I don't feel like I'm locked into this lease just because it's 2 years. I signed the 2-year lease because I didn't want them to increase my rent a year into the lease, but I've never been somebody who has ever viewed anything as you have to do this or this is final. And I hope that if you listen to the episode throughout this episode, you'll realize that literally nothing in your life is final. And I think people get so pigeonholed and like stuck in either feeling so stuck that they can't get their mind to think of any other way, or you're feeling like, okay, because I signed a piece of paper or because my lease says it's this, that I'm stuck in it. Number one, if you ever want to get out of a lease, you find somebody to sublet. Unless you are literally living in the middle of nowhere, in like not even Mansfield, Connecticut, middle of nowhere. I am talking even more middle of nowhere than where I am from, which I don't even know if it's possible. You will always be able to find somebody to take over your lease. Use Facebook Marketplace. You can use Craigslist, whatever it is. It's not a big deal. So you've got that. And then, of course, I have job flexibility that allows me to work from anywhere. So I really have been going a lot more than I anticipated between London and the US, which is kind of becoming a pain in my tush because that was not my intention. But I'm hoping to spend pretty much like all of the summer here and not be going back and forth. But because I have that flexibility, because of the way that I've set up my life to be, it's much easier for me to say like, oh, I'm here 1 week, I'm there next week, I have to leave this week. And I think that's a really cool part of entrepreneurship is that there is no requirement to be in one place or stay in one place. So that's my thought process on leaving and staying. If I had a reason to leave, I would leave, but that reason I think at this point would need to be very much a work-related reason or a relationship-related reason. How I've been meeting people. Today I actually got coffee with a girl I met at the gym. I go to a really cool gym in Shoreditch. That's a yoga class. Now, I've never really been a yoga kind of girl. I'm very much into weightlifting and super intense workouts, but I think living not in America has just made me a lot more chill, and I really appreciate that. I think the person that I was a year ago is honestly the opposite of who I am today, in a good way, because I've learned to just ground myself a lot more and to really do whatever it is that I feel like doing in the moment. I used to partake in a lot, I think, of like going out or relationships or conversations with things and people that just didn't make me feel 100%. And I even posted that on social media the other day, how to audit your life. And I think that it's something everyone should do every 6 to 8 months. Like sit down and look at the people in your life. Look at the career opportunities. Look at even the food that you're eating or your morning routine. And whatever isn't a hell yes, take it out, because it should be a hell no. There should be no middle line between a yes and no. You're not confused if you like this person, you don't like them. I can guarantee you all of the times I've ever thought, well, maybe if I see him again, or oh, maybe if we have one more conversation, I will end up leaning towards liking this person more. It's an absolutely hell no, because there's someone out there for you that will make you feel like a hell yes. So why waste your time on somebody who's 50-50 when you can be with somebody who you're 100% into? So aside from the gym, I've met people at a run club. When I moved here, or when I first actually came here in October, I still had my place in Austin. I was going through a really bad depression. And the first place that I thought let me get out of America and go to was London. So I used points and I came here and I rented an apartment in October. And that's actually when I decided to move here. It was in that like 2-3 week period of the apartment that I rented. I found a run club on Soho House. Actually, somebody had started a run club. And so I went. I didn't know anyone at the run club. I think there was like 7 of us. I didn't even know their names. Like when I left the run club, I had to put it in the WhatsApp group. And I just remember being on that run and we were running through Hyde Park and I had headphones in my ears and this group of people around me I had never met. And we had this common bond, which is running. And I just remember feeling so free. Like for the first time in my life, there was nobody judging me or questioning me or like asking me what I do or what is it like to be an entrepreneur or how do you make money. It just felt so freeing. And so that period of time was when I decided to move here. And then it happened so fast. I mean, I went back to Austin for maybe a week. I literally packed up my stuff. I flew half of it to LA, half of it to my parents, and subletted the apartment with a girl I met on Facebook Marketplace. I work very fast when I know what I want to do, and I know and trust my intuition to the 100th degree. And so when my mind was like, you need to move, I was like, I'm moving, and I made it happen. And so I met people through that run club. I've met people randomly out and about. I downloaded Hinge. I can tell you that something else I decided when I moved here, and actually one of my best friends in Austin, Kendall, I remember when I told her and my other best friend, Sam, and I was like, you guys, I'm moving to London. And I remember Kendall being like, you really need to find a group of girlfriends. And I said to her, and I was like, look, I have an awesome group of girlfriends. I mean, whether I'm in LA, whether I'm in New York, whether I'm in Austin, we barely see each other. 99% of the time, our relationship is based on text and FaceTime because we're all busy and all doing different things. I'm not at a point where I feel like I need to restart making friends and those kind of relationships. Like I have what I need. So I remember telling her that and her being like, well, you really need to find like a group of girlfriends that have your back. And I just was like, no, I don't necessarily agree because I have that. And I think finding girlfriends in particular is a lot harder than meeting people in more of a casual setting. Just because for me personally, I've always gotten along better with men. Like I've always just found going out with guys and talking to guys a lot more chill than girlfriends. Girls just genuinely have a tendency to be a lot more jealous, and it's a bit more of that survival of the fittest. Now, the girls that I've met have been really cool. I'm really actually enjoying getting to know them here, but I'm also in that mindset of like, I love my independence. I love being alone. I love not being tied down, I think, to anything. Of course, if I was in Austin or if I was in LA, I do have a lot more friends there, and you do have people calling you being like, yo, I'm bored, you want to go out? Like, hey, you want to go to the gym? I love in London that like I have the first 6 hours of my day totally alone. I have emails from the day before, but I don't have anyone asking me anything. I find that really refreshing. And then I love that I just don't feel tied down to anything or anyone at this point because I don't have that group of friends. I'm not in a serious relationship with anyone. And it's really nice. You realize that when you kind of strip free of all of the, number one, materialistic stuff in your life, and number two, the expectations that you have for the relationships and the people in your life, that it really is just me, myself, and I. And that is so nice. And I think it's allowed me to also be able to do whatever I want at any given time in London. Whereas in other cities, of course, like if there's events or if there's things I need to go to or meetings, I feel like I really have to obviously show up and be a lot more prepared. Whereas in London, because I don't necessarily have that, I feel a lot more free with my time. And that's really nice. What I would say is the time zone definitely is a bit annoying. I've had people ask me to go to dinner at 6 or 7 p.m. and I've had to be really strategic with my schedule. I also spend a lot more time at my office than I think I ever have in my whole life. I mean, I would say I spend Monday through Friday from at least 11 a.m. or noon until like 8, 9, 10 p.m. sometimes here. I'm trying to get a bit better at it, and like 50% of it is running a startup, and the other 50% of it is just those hours, and I don't want to necessarily miss out on business deals or emails. So I'm pretty good at like turning off around like 8 or 9, and then I don't go on my cell phone, I don't go on my email until the next morning after my morning routine. And again, that's been a huge adjustment for me. I would say, in particular, as somebody who is incredibly neurotic and gets really anxious around like missing out on things, it's been a thing for me to have to overcome, is getting used to the time difference. But I also find that sometimes it's so fun to wake up the next day and like have more text messages and have more emails. Like, it gives me so much more to do versus completely starting with a fresh slate every single morning, because I feel like I'm still finishing the work from the day before. So that's been interesting, but I think it's also given me just the ability to be a lot more conscious with my time and say yes to things I really want to do and no to things I don't want to do. There is a huge cultural difference between America and, quite frankly, anywhere else in the world, which is people in America work so much, and people in UK, Europe, wherever else, Turkey, work half the amount of time. I can tell you that. I mean, by 5 p.m., I'm filming this episode at 3:28, and I am telling you, if I walked outside of this office right now, there would be people at pubs, there would be people chit-chatting. People do not work in the same way that I think I've been born and raised to work, which is just that innate drive and hustle mentality. And I like it a lot more here, that people are not so work focused. It doesn't resolve around every conversation. You have a lot more conversations that are, tell me about yourself, or what do you like to do, or where's your favorite restaurant? Whereas other times in other places, I'll have conversations that are a lot more geared towards work and, oh, that's so cool, and tell me about that. It doesn't mean that that's not happening here. I just find that it happens a lot less frequently. On the note of that time difference as well, it is really refreshing to also have that amount of time in the morning when I'm in America. And I don't know if anyone else can relate to this. That hustle, go, 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 right? Like, you only have so many hours in the day. You're waking up, for me, it was between like 5 and 7 a.m. to be at the gym, which takes an hour and a half if I'm going to take a shower. By then, it's 9, which is, 9, 10, gosh, I'm so bad at math, which is noon on the East Coast. Now, I've missed the whole morning, then you're constantly behind. Whereas here, because you've got that massive difference in time, my mindset is like a lot more strategic. You like, this is what's happening in the morning. This is the time I need to be at my office. And this is the time I really need to work until or through to get things done. I still have my assistant who like helps me with all my scheduling and calendar and whatnot. And she knows like, these are the days that I'm flying or traveling. These are the times that I don't want to be on phone calls. And it's been more of an adjustment for me than I figured. But I would say at the end of the day, it is so much nicer to wake up and have that amount of time to myself than it is to wake up in LA and know that you're 3 hours behind work on the East Coast, whereas here you're already ahead of the game. So it's a bit of a nice thing. So that's the time difference. That's how I've been meeting people. I've been going out. I'll take myself out every single weekend and just do whatever I want. While I was living in Austin, I started to hit a wall. It's a very small city. I've had some videos about Austin blow up on TikTok, and I always have people commenting, like, give me places in Austin. What's it like in Austin? The thing about Austin, Texas is that it is, at the end of the day, number one, it is Texas. You are not living in a metropolitan posh place like New York or LA. As much as Texas has tried to get there, it will just never be there because it's too small. The actual downtown Austin is, you could drive in less than 15 minutes. You couldn't even get from Silver Lake to Hollywood in less than 15 minutes unless it literally was the crack of dawn or midnight, right? So when you're looking at Austin in particular, you're looking at just a naturally smaller city. And I just found people were not as really willing to experiment there. I found like people were just very comfortable in who they were and didn't necessarily constantly want to be growing. I find that I thrive in, number one, being really uncomfortable, but also being in places and elements where I can constantly explore. Living in Austin for 4 years, I could tell you on the back of my hand, like, you want to spend an hour there, I'll give you everything to do in an hour. You want to spend a weekend there, I can tell you exactly what to do. Like, there is no place I do not know of in that city because it's so calm and so small and so comfortable. Now, LA is kind of the opposite, but the downside of LA is you face this immense amount of traffic that makes it so annoying and complicated to get everywhere. So exploring also becomes a bit more frustrating. Whereas in London, you've got such incredible transport, public transport, that I just adore. It's so easy. I find the routes are really easy. What's a bit annoying is that there's no cell phone service underneath the tube underground, and a lot of times the tube will just stop. But when you live here, you also realize it's the same with that mentality of just like slowing down. I mean, I'll bring a book on the tube now. I'll take the tube to the airport. Whereas in LA, it's an hour in the car. In Austin, somebody has to pick you up. You have to get on an Uber, or you can take the bus, but the bus is kind of annoying there. And so here, it's just very convenient. And so that is also really quite nice and relaxing, is like to get anywhere at any given time. It may take you a bit of time, but you're never going to run out of things to do or people to meet or things to see. I will sometimes just go and sit at a bar by myself. I'll go to a restaurant by myself. I'll go to a bookstore. I'll go to a coffee shop. Me in particular, I'm the kind of traveling person. Like, I enjoy going to restaurants. I like bookstores. I like shopping. I like biking. I like run clubs. I'm not like a huge person with art and culture. I know that they have that in London, and I've done it, but I can tell you that I'm not getting up on a Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning and going to the museum. It's just not my vibe. So as long as every single week I am trying something new, a class or a run club or a coffee shop, I feel like I'm getting out of my comfort zone and I'm seeing something new. A few weeks ago, I actually had a bit more of a difficult weekend. I kind of thought I was losing my mind. I will say getting an apartment here was the most complicated experience of my life. So I came here in December, and I'm on an app called Kindred, which is this members only home swapping app. And so I rented an apartment through an app called Kindred, and I was viewing a bunch of places, and I probably viewed 10 or 12 apartments between Marylebone, Soho area, which that is like the Beverly Hills kind of Rodeo Drive of London. That is where I ideally wanted to be, because of the apartment I had rented in October was in that area, and I hadn't really seen anywhere else. But I also felt like very committed to that area because I got really adjusted to it. But I also loved Shoreditch, and that's kind of like the trendier, more hip area. I viewed some other places in an area called Notting Hill, which is also really cool. But unfortunately, I took somebody's advice, and he said, don't move to Notting Hill because everyone's married and old and has kids. Now I realize that that's not in any capacity true. It is not an area where everyone's married and old and has kids, and I kind of wish I moved over there. But that being said, I viewed probably 12 apartments between Marylebone, Soho, and Shoreditch, and everything is insanely expensive, you guys. Like, when I say expensive, I mean, in the US, for reference, I was paying like, I don't know, under $2,500, but above $2,000 through Austin and LA. This is the most I've ever paid in my life. I found a really, really cool kind of duplex-ish, like one bedroom split. So there's a large bedroom downstairs, and then there's a larger upstairs. That's the living room and the kitchen, and it was renovated, and it was nice, and it felt really safe. And then everywhere else I viewed was either the same price or more, super old, appliances not working, really weird, crappy furniture. And it's different here. Like, if you come into the apartment and it's in any capacity furnished, which means there's a bed, there's furniture, they will not let you take it out. So I actually tried to get the guy who I'm renting from, the landlord, to like let me take out the table. He didn't want me to. He didn't want me to take out the couch, which is also very odd because it's hard to make a place your space, right? I mean, I'm in a 2-year lease and I've got all of this guy's other furniture, but they just don't screw around with that stuff. They don't break the rules like people in America do. And I am very much a rule breaker with business and just anything. I prefer to do whatever I want at any given time. And so that mentality does not work here. So I've got all that furniture in the apartment, which is fine. It's hard to make something more of your own space when you have got, right, somebody else's stuff in there. But so I viewed all of those places, and I ended up choosing this one in Shoreditch. Then comes this whole other element of you have to get a UK bank account, and everything is set up so differently, everything from the Wi-Fi to like a UK phone number to just everything. And so this weekend, a few weekends ago, I just was realizing that it is so different to live here and be an expat than it is to probably be from here and be more used to the cultural side of things. And so that weekend in particular, was definitely a learning curve for me, but I got the UK bank account approved. I got the UK phone number, all of that stuff, but it just felt tedious and annoying and unnecessary. But of course, when you live a more fearless lifestyle, you'll find out fast that not everything is going to be as easy as perhaps it has been, because you're doing something that gets you out of your comfort zone, right? So the minute that you start to embark on anything that you don't know all of the answers to, you're going to learn a lot, and that I have. But I have a really nice routine now. I usually, Monday through Friday, I wake up I've realized after reading Dr. Vora's book, The Anatomy of Anxiety, which I've also had her on The New Unfiltered. So you guys should listen to that episode, because she is how I found my new therapist. Like, she is really awesome. I realized that I like sleeping with the blinds open because I like being woken up by the natural sunlight. I even got rid of having any phones in my bedroom. So now I have just an old-fashioned OG alarm clock, and it's awesome. It just beeps in the morning when it goes off. So my routine is waking up the sun honestly wakes me up, if it's sunny in London, between like 6 and 7. And so I'll wake up pretty much naturally, even though I'll keep an alarm on for between 6:30 and 7 a.m. I walk upstairs, I wash my face. Then I have water with lemon. Then I make my coffee, and I do about a 20 to 30 minute routine, which includes reading and meditating and journaling. I've gotten really into journaling lately as I've dealt with a bit worse depression than I'm used to. So I'm kind of trying to track what I feel like may be triggering that depression and worse anxiety. So the journaling has actually been really helpful. And then I pretty much start my day. So then I either go to a gym class, I use ClassPass here, or I'll go to Soho House. There's also a really, really good gym at the Soho House in London. Because Soho House is from here, I was halfway to canceling my membership in the US, and then being here now, it really is a super convenient place with the gyms. It makes it so worth it to me. So like this morning I went there and I FaceTimed my trainer, so we did a session, and then I met my friend from the gym for coffee, and then I just came to WeWork, and then I just work, and then I go home and I make dinner, and maybe I'll take a phone call if I have to. But for the most part, every single day is like that. And then come Thursday or Friday, I'll maybe go out, I'll try a new restaurant, I'll leave work early. I really do whatever I want on those days. Lately, I've been realizing that I should spend more time doing what I want, which means working a little bit less. So I almost block out days of the week or hours of the week where I just do whatever I want, which may be like getting my nails done or trying some new place, even if it's during the weekday, which in the past I've always felt a lot of guilt about. But I think a lot of this comes with age and like entrepreneurship, having been an entrepreneur for so many years now, and I'm so used to just the grind and the hustle. I know what I need to do to get things done, but I also know how to block out periods of time for myself where I can just like decompress or do what I want and not feel like I need to be working at that time. So I think everyone who is an aspiring and or current entrepreneur, you want to get to that place, which just takes time. And so that's pretty much what I do. There's a lot of WeWorks in London, and I love WeWork. So I'll sometimes try a new WeWork. I recently found one in Shoreditch that is probably my favorite one. So I've been coming here every day. And sometimes they have like little parties and gatherings in the evening. So sometimes I'll go to that. But for the most part, I pretty much Monday through like Thursday, Friday, come here, do the same thing, like work until the end of the day, and then I go home. I think a lot of people are probably also curious about the dating culture in London. So I said earlier that I downloaded Hinge. Now, I've been very anti-dating app like my whole life. I don't know why. I'm super, super good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not as good at a lot of stuff, but I'm really good at reading people. And my mentality about dating sites in particular has always been, you never know what you're getting. So when you go on a date with somebody you've never met before, you have no idea if you have any mutual interests. You have no idea what the vibe is going to be. You don't know what to expect. The upside of that is that it has enabled so many people to meet people, right, who you wouldn't have seen. But I'm still a big advocate of just like going out to a bar or a pub and meeting people. What I find about London is that people drink a lot. I have significantly reduced the amount of alcohol I've been consuming since moving here. And so going on dates makes it like kind of annoying because I just find myself having to explain to people why I'm not like drinking. And so it always then, like, even the other day I went out with this guy and he seemed like so offended that I wouldn't have a drink with him. And I mean, I cut the date so short. I just was like not feeling it. But that to me was like red flag. Why do you care if I'm drinking? It literally doesn't matter. I'm fine with my coconut water. And on top of that, I am a cheap motherfucking date right now because I'm not drinking. So like, you want me drinking and we'll be spending money. Like, you want me drinking coconut water and I'm just a cute, cool girl here to have a convo with. So downloading the apps here, I definitely have noticed like a significant shift in comparison to like any time I've been on an app date in the US or have girlfriends of mine have app dates. People here, I just find them to be, like I said, a lot more genuine, a lot more grounded. I've never had to question whether or not a guy is going to pay for a drink or like a meal on the first, second, or third date here. Whereas in the US, I mean, it's kind of like a free-for-all. I think a lot of women go on dates expecting that like the guy will pay, and I think that they're very taken aback sometimes when men don't pay. But I will say there, the way that men date, there's a frattiness, there's like a sluttiness about it, there's like a, you know, sex is the first thing on anyone's mindset there. Of course, that's for sure rampant anywhere in any city. But I think here people are just way more willing to have a conversation and walk away from the conversation knowing equally maybe there's no vibe there. Than in the US, I think men, from what I found, will really do anything to sleep with you. And that really, like, I find super annoying and irritating to meet people there. I will say that's also one of the reasons that I wanted to move here, is I thought I would have a lot of a better chance of meeting a cool, good man than I would in the US. It is like impossible to date in Los Angeles. I have no experience dating in New York. Austin was also kind of a shit show, but I don't know. People here are like cool and they're down to have a good time and they're nice and they don't have a lot of like expectations up front. And so I also find that really refreshing as well. So I'm very much still single. I really haven't met anyone that's like totally stood out to me. I've gone on a few third dates with people and then decided that they just were not my vibe. I think at this point I know exactly what I don't want. So I'm very sensitive towards like if someone does something that's kind of on my little list of things that I don't want, a little light switch goes off in my brain, which it's never done before. And that's where my gut just tells me like, this isn't it. I never ghost someone. Like I'll always say something to them. But I also think like on dates 1 to 3, like, I mean, you never need to have a reason, right? Like you're getting back with your ex, you're sick, you're working, like whatever. I'm not saying to lie, but I think people overcomplicate it. And at the end of the day, you don't know this person well enough to where you have to say anything that has any sort of legs. So you can literally say anything because that's better than saying nothing. So that's kind of what my mindset has been on dating. I think it's so funny here because guys love American accents. Like men in London love American accents. They will go off the wall for it. And in the US, half the time, it's like I can't even meet one guy, let alone 5 guys. But here it's this phenomenal thing because I've got 10 guys who are like, oh my God, you're American. American people and British people are also very different. I think a really good example is it wasn't Love is Blind. It was that other show on the island. Oh gosh, and there was the girl Chloe, the really slim girl, and she was British, pretty girl. I can't remember, but she, I think, is a pretty good example of like American versus British. I'll say that like American girls with the lip fillers and the lips and the fakeness. There's like a very fake way about it here. I mean, but then here you've got that, but like there's a British vibe to it. So sometimes it's a bit more even overdone and it's just bizarre. And I'm not into any of that. I mean, I don't have like anything fake. I barely wear any makeup. A lot of times I've honestly showed up to a date right from WeWork because someone wants to meet at 8 p.m. And I'm like, all right, if it's a Monday through Friday, like I'm coming with my backpack. I show up unapologetically me, and I don't find anything wrong with that because somebody can get to know me the exact way. But I find that like British men, I think, are really used to that traditional British girl. And I think that they're also really curious about the American person because so many people in the United Kingdom in particular have like honestly never really been to America or spent time there. I would say most of the people that I've met have spent very small amounts of time in America, and it is like on their bucket list and their dream list to go there. Of course, for me, I have traveled so much and for so many years and so much solo travel. So at this point, I could literally do anything or be anywhere with someone or alone and be totally fine. But there's a fascination here about it. Whereas the way that I was really curious what it would be here to live, they have that about America. But at the end of the day, America does have significantly more opportunities than here. I don't think I could have moved here doing the TV work and career work I was doing early on in my late teens because they don't have that landscape here, which brings me into the last topic, I guess, which is work-wise. I moved here because I wanted to expand AC Consulting to the UK and get more of a client base here because the United Kingdom does not have the same access to media and PR. It's very different here. They don't have that culture. Don't get me wrong. They have influencers and creators, but that's different. I'm talking mainstream media. They don't have a Today Show or a Good Morning America in the UK. They don't have major people who are kind of running the event space and the networking and all of that. It's a lot smaller and it's a lot more intimate, which is great, but you don't just necessarily end up popping into some crazy cool exclusive party every other day, like perhaps you would in LA. There's always restaurant openings and things like that. They just don't have that here. And so that was part of my intention. Was I thought it would be really easy for me to build a client base here for predominantly founders who were interested in expanding over to the US. And I have sent out some really good proposals. I haven't necessarily gotten any major clients yet, so that's why I'm still working such long U.S. hours, is because most of my clients still are based in the United States of America, unfortunately. But that being said, I'm really optimistic, and I have really enjoyed, honestly, learning about the UK and European landscape for business. A lot of people here are consultants. A lot of people who also used to work at different startups go on to be consultants, and I find that also really intriguing as I embark on this AC consulting territory of consultings and how different it is here. A lot of people will do day rates, so it's not really common to do these long retainer type style opportunities like I've done in the US, where, for example, you're paid 5 or 10K up front and then you do the work. Here, you really divide that and you get it based on a day. And so that's kind of intriguing. It's just different. But again, I love learning, and I love being in environments that are different and that have me learn things, because that's how I find out about myself and who I want to be and what you want to do, right? If you stop learning and you stop growing, then you're never going to find out anything new about yourself, and you're never going to necessarily give yourself the opportunity or the environment to perhaps expand and figure out what you want to do next. So that's my London journal so far. I'm headed out of the country again on Friday. I'll be at the University of Michigan on Monday, then to LA, then back to London, then to New York, then doing some travel in May with my mom, who I'm bringing over to London for her birthday. So that'll be fun, but I am certainly really keen to meet somebody who I can do some more European travel with over the summer, because as much as I love the solo travel, I really would rather travel with a guy. I know that sounds bad, but I've done so much solo travel, and my Mexico City solo trip last November was not a vibe. I just had such a shitty time. Not because I was alone, but everything that was happening, I kept saying to myself, if I had a guy here with me, this stuff would not be happening. So that's my intention for the summer, as probably every girl who wants to meet a guy and travel Europa and be on boats and who knows what. And I'll probably end up doing nothing and staying in London, and that's totally fine too. So that is my London guide. If you want more about London and what I like about it here, what not, where to go, what to visit, if you're coming here, please send me a message on Instagram, any form of social media. I will send you all of my selections. I definitely am very ingrained now in the scene, and I know the cool spots and the best restaurants that I've found. But there's so many here. I'm always, like I said, I'm always finding something and learning something new, which is super cool. But head to the show notes if you want to find out more about Be Fearless in 2024, what we're planning. And on top of that, make sure to follow The New Unfiltered on social media at The New Unfiltered, as well as my personal social media, which is at Alexa_Curtis. And I'll see you next week for a new episode of The New Unfiltered.